Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Sorina Tanase, who's a senior housing specialist and real estate investor advocate. Sorina, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to learning how you serve your clients. Get us started a little bit with your background and story, and what has your entrepreneurial journey been like to this point in your career?
Well, originally I am from Romania. I moved to the United States back in 2002 and started my first business, my first care facility, and then got my real estate license. And I've been doing both at the same time for, I want to say, 21 years now.
Neat. What led you to that specific field?
It was a growing industry at the time. I didn't know too much about it, but I had very good friends who were doing it for a while. And looking into it, doing my own research, I saw that this is definitely an industry that is never going to go away. We, as human beings, always going to need care and a place to live. And that's what I've been doing, and it proved very, very successful for me.
Yes, and I'm sure you've seen ups and downs in the markets, and when you see those market drops, what are you advising your clients on from your experience regarding, the market will come back, or we need to be careful? How do those forecasts work?
Yeah, it's like a twofold here, Mike. Just a regular residential purchase, I would definitely have a certain type of advice. As far as a care facility, they don't see a downside, even the real estate even when we had here in the U.S. back in 08, 09, the crash, the care facilities, business and property, they maintain their value. For just a regular buyer who is interested just in selling and buying a property, the advice obviously would be to, depending on the circumstances, either wait, if you can wait it out, either, buy now, and so forth. But from a real estate standpoint, when you think of the care facilities, the value has always been there.
Yeah. And most of the time, people just need to buy because of their reasons. So you can't really time the market. So if you relocate to another state and you want to buy a house because you sold your other house, if the market is down, the market's down. If the market's up, the market's up. So I think that sometimes people get too concerned over mortgage interest rates or the market's hot or not. But in reality, just get on back in and just, let the market do what it's going to do.
That is very correct. There is never a good time or a bad time to buy real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What is the percentage of your business that you're serving your clients? Is it typically the care facilities helping people figure that out for their loved ones, or is it more on the real estate side, or is it a good mix between the two?
Definitely a very good mix between the two. Just by being an owner of this type of facilities myself, and the industry is very, it's a small world, right? It's a niche. Just by being an operator myself, people know my name, and it just so happened that I started selling more and more care facilities, but definitely I would say it's a mix of both. I can't say one is higher than the other. It's consistent, pretty consistent. Yeah.
Typically when we're in business, we tend to look for problems to solve for our clients. What typically are the problems you're solving for your clients, and what's your competitive advantage on both the care facility side as well as the real estate side?
Definitely, I would say no matter what they're buying, it could be for a lot of people, this is probably the biggest purchase they would ever make. And the emotional aspect is very important, the psychological aspect. You have to really understand the psychology behind it. And first and foremost, be a good, for lack of a better word, maybe be a good consultant for them, be a
Yeah.
good counselor for them, and try to alleviate their worries. I would say that's what sets me apart. This is not about making a sale. This is about understanding where the client is coming from and forming a relationship first. And after that, everything else is going to come.
It's really interesting that you say relationship because so many times in the real estate industry, you hear, let's go to the closing. Well, in reality, it's really an opening of a relationship because you're not closing anything. You're opening a relationship for a long-term opportunity to serve those clients.
Yes, absolutely. When people are so emotional and they're vulnerable, for a lot of them, it's the biggest purchase, like I said, that they can make. If they genuinely feel that you're there for them, and really fight for them and have their best interests at heart, it's amazing how much trust they're going to put in you and they're going to follow your advice and how smoothly everything else goes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good mindset to keep in mind. So, through your career, it's been over 20 years. I'm sure that there have been challenges or failures that you've experienced both on the personal side, trying to grow the business. Talk a little bit about some of those roadblocks and hurdles that you experienced and how you pushed through those.
Yes, there have been, inevitable. There have been situations like this. I'm a strong believer, the saying, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
So I never saw and again, whenever a door closed for me, I never saw it. I never thought the mindset was not there. Oh, this is not going to happen. I always look for a solution. So I found a window
Yeah.
every time, and I got it solved. I can give you just a short example here. When the market crashed, we had so many short sales, as you know, and bank-owned properties and so forth. Nobody knew what they were doing, and I was not scared. I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as a learning experience. I was so excited about it because everyone was afraid. And I'm like, okay, no, let's see how we can handle this. Let's see what can we learn from this. And I've done so many, never lost one, 2 loans on the property, 3 loans, bankruptcy, you name it, probate, probate court and so forth, you name it. It, it, it has been a challenge because it wasn't easy. You have to wake up like, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the morning because everything was on the East Coast, and you would assign a negotiator. And a lot of times, because nobody knew at the time what they were doing, a lot of the answers didn't make any sense. It would have been so easy. A lot of my fellow agents, well, just disappointed and gave up. And I always, I pushed through. And I
Yeah.
became what they call the queen of the short sales at the time.
You had to do that by necessity because it was either that or give up. So you pushed through by embracing that, learning how to deal with those challenges, and then you kind of made a name for yourself, and that becomes very resilient.
Yes. In my vocabulary, and I don't think it should be in anyone's vocabulary, there isn't the word or the phrase "I can't," "I cannot." It's only "I don't want to do this," not "I can't do this." There's a very, very big difference there, and I don't have that in my vocabulary. No, I look at the problem and I decide do I want to do it or not. That's a decision that I make, but I never say I cannot do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So talk a little bit about what it took from the standpoint of your approach to those challenges when you noticed them in the moment. Of course, it feels like what a big problem this is. And then you had to have the faith to realize I've done it before. I need to just put one foot in front of the other. How did faith drive you and fuel you to persevere and overcome those challenges?
I guess, growing up in the communism, it was an advantage because I used that time to remind myself what it means, what it meant to grow up in those times, the absolute, quote unquote, prison per se, and lack of opportunities, and how blessed I am to be here, the land of opportunities, right? So I don't have the luxury to think differently because I was given, by grace to be here, and I cannot think differently. I have to make the best because I've seen the worst, and there's so many other people who would have liked to have this opportunity, and there's no place for, minors here.
Yes, that's I think sometimes our faith is bolstered when we look back at our own past and see what difficulties we came out of and how we made it through. And it encourages us to keep on, and then that kind of becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, because there's a responsibility, at least that I feel, a responsibility to become successful and be an example for other people, and especially help people in any way that I can. Experience, financially, advise, counseling, and so forth. And having that type of energy and that type of mindset is inspiring to people. They want to be around you. And like you said, not to say there haven't been times when you feel down or low. Nobody has to see that. You have to talk to yourself, you pull yourself up, and you move forward. There's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, I love it. That makes total sense. So think back on through some of those challenges that you experienced and you persevered through. How did those lead you to even more success?
It was just a burning desire, and still is, to just make a path for myself and, for my son. I've been a single mom for a long time, and I raised a child, and I wanted to make sure that my child has all the opportunities that he deserves. Doesn't miss anything, doesn't feel like just because, has only one parent, he lacks, or so I showed him how to be strong. And I guess that was that was probably the fuel for me, more than the desire to be successful.
Yeah. Family really does that to us, and I couldn't agree more. You kind of come up with your mama bear, papa bear approach and want to take care of the family and also prevent them from experiencing some of the struggles that you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely didn't want him to go through what I went through, and he's going to make, obviously, his choices in life are going to be different and better, and opportunities the same.
Mm-hmm. Do you also find that the parenting style that you take with your child carries over into your clients, where you kind of feel like you're giving them some life principles and guidance as well as you're working with them in business?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You describe it exactly. Yes. It's that approach where you know what's good for your client before they even say anything. I mean, they come to you, I want to do this or that, or I'm looking in this area or that area. And you look at them and you know they're not there yet. But you guide them in such a way that they get there sooner rather than later with, compassion and advice, and not letting them stray. You know what I mean? You just are there 100% for them until they realize, okay, yeah, this is actually what I always wanted to do. You actually showed me. I just didn't know how to find it.
And also, what you just said there is so key, because earlier you said you take that caring and empathetic approach. And what you just said there was, when you know that someone should make a certain decision, but you're not saying you're wrong for feeling this way, here's the right way to feel. You're guiding them, you're teaching, educating. And then when they come to that realization on their own, it becomes a natural decision versus you forced them into something. So I think that caring approach really does work well for any industry, but especially when you're talking about care facilities. That there's definitely caring and empathy needed there, and then that carries over into when you're working with people for traditional real estate.
Absolutely, and it had a lot of impact on how, like, to your point, traditional real estate, and the approach with those type of clients. As an operator, you deal with so much emotional, I don't want to call it drama, but it is always very hard for the families to accept that their loved one now is gotten to the point where they have to be admitted in one of these facilities, right? So you have to make them feel at ease, make them understand this is just the next phase, and show them the love that you're going to, show them the love that it's okay to do this. There's a lot of counseling, and there's a lot of assurance that you have to, mostly you have to counsel mostly the families before you do anything for the residents.
Because they probably have a little guilt as well, but yet you need to make that point that it's actually an act of love.
Absolutely. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Through our conversation so far here, it's just evident that you've got that strong drive to succeed. Looking back through some of those challenges, would you do anything differently if you had the chance?
Maybe one or two, but overall, no. Because everything that I've been through made me the person that I am today. It might sound cliche, but that is actually the truth.
Sure. Yeah, I hear that so many times. People realize that I went through a hard time, I learned, I persevered, and I succeeded. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So think back through some of those challenges you faced. In your opinion, what are some of the key attributes that people need to realize and overcome so that they can have that personal and professional success?
It's very important to think, when whatever the challenge is, it's your definition, right, of what might constitute a challenge. You're not a victim. First reaction could be, oh, I'm a victim. Oh, why me? No. You look at it straight in the face, straight in the eyes, and say, okay, let's see how. First of all, I'm seeing this as a learning experience. Doesn't matter. It happened. Let me see, what have I done wrong? What I can learn from this, and how I make sure that this is not going to happen again. But I'm not a victim. This is another chapter in my life, or another page in a chapter.
Yes, for sure. So thinking back now of all the struggles you've come through and become stronger from, that's really solidified your purpose. talk a little bit about your purpose and what your why is now in your personal and professional life.
My why is to definitely to help people, to help them achieve their dream. If I can be a part of their, success, that is definitely my why, because it cannot be put in words or ever described accurately. The feeling when you see somebody that their dream at the time came true and you made it happen.
Yeah.
I cannot, I don't know how to describe this. I'm sure you know what I mean by this. And, I've done that time and time again. Every house that they purchase, or if I was able to make a deal for them. This is the house that I won. I was in a multiple offer situation or whatever the case, and I was able to do it for them. Tears, hugs. It's just unbelievable, that feeling.
Yes. So giving and serving and giving value, and just making the world a better place, one client and interaction at a time. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Sorina, it's been really wonderful learning about your entrepreneurial journey and your drive to success. If someone is interested in reaching out and connecting with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Definitely, they can go to my website and they can book a consultation with me at tanasegroup.com. They can also reach me on LinkedIn. My contact information as far as email and phone number, they're on my website. And, I'd be happy to help the way I did it so far.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.